All right, welcome to Wild Card Weekend preview with Jalen and Chuck on Chalk Talk with Chuck. Jalen, how are you?
Good, man. I'm pumped for the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited for the playoffs. This is going to be awesome. Uh, so we've decided that we're going to have the hate list be a regular season thing, and I think during the Super Bowl laps week, we'll have a bunch of stuff planned for the podcast. But for the playoffs, what we're going to do is I guess we're going to dive into I made a sheet with every playoff team's best win, worst loss, record against playoff teams, go through the games that way. Then make our picks. Jalen's got an updated score for the picks, and maybe close out with a little bit of basement tapes. But super excited. This is one of the best weeks of the year. In my opinion, this is the best slate of wild card games I can remember in a long time. Uh, I just think we have a lot of teams that are similarly situated, or there's rivalries, and there's only one or two games that I think have like true blowout potential. So I'm really excited about it. How about you, Jalen?
Yeah, man. I like all the matchups. I wish I was the one seed, but and didn't have to play the Rams. I remember explicitly saying I do not want to play the Rams, so that
Yeah.
sucks. But aside from my team, I really like all these matchups, and I'm glad that the Packers Eagles thing happened, and I'm glad that the Commanders Bucks and like those two matchups, I'm glad they just ended up that way. And honestly, I know you're not happy about it, but I'm excited about Steelers Ravens.
Yeah, I'm not even like that. I obviously would have rather be playing Houston the way that Houston's been the past couple of weeks. And
For sure.
I would feel a lot better about playing Houston, but the irrational Steelers fan in me now is like, well, we do always play this team tough. There's always a chance we can beat them. I mean, I haven't ruled that game out of my head.
Yeah, no, I
So,
mean if anyone's gonna knock out the Ravens, it's you guys in round one.
right.
Like it's a perfect script.
It is. And we'll talk about a little bit of what I think about that later just cuz I think that there's a lot on the line for the Steelers moving forward based on how this game goes. And it's what I think makes Pittsburgh and Baltimore similarly situated. But we'll start with the Chargers Texans game, which is the first game, which is on in just a few hours. It is Saturday. We're going to do the picks this week right before the games are on. And I went through, like I said earlier, all the teams. And the way that this matchup shakes out is the Chargers' best win this season is either their 34-27 win over the Bengals or their 34-27 win over the Broncos. One of those two games. Their worst loss is probably their early season loss to the Cardinals, where they lost 17-15, or you could say late in the season once they had things going, they got blown out by the Bucks in a 40-17 loss. The Bucks have oddly some really nice wins peppered through their schedule. Their record against playoff teams is 2-5. Not great, but they do play in a division with two other playoff teams, and they have to play the Chiefs. Their best loss is probably their loss to the Chiefs, where the field goal hit the upright and win it. Then you look at the Texans. Their best win is a 23-20 win over the Bills. Their worst loss by far is probably their loss to the Jets at 21-13. I know people are going to look at the 31-2 loss to the Ravens. That was more of an embarrassment. I would say that losing to the Jets is just it's the worst team on this list for worst loss, and it's not close. Their record is 1-5. Their only win against a playoff team is the win against the Bills. What do you think about this matchup?
I like I I'm surprised at the Chargers, like your best win, worst loss stuff with them because I feel like they were way more like consistent throughout the year. I will say I have a lot more belief in the Chargers than the Texans at this point. Um, in the Texan stuff, just I mean it was just injuries mostly. It looks a lot different probably if they're healthy the whole season, but I like the Chargers in this game a lot.
Yeah, I've thought about this game actually more than probably I should have for two teams that I don't care about. The Chargers are 3-point favorites in Houston. And I was thinking about like how are these two teams what are people going to think after this game? And I think if you're a fan of either of these teams, if you lose, you're not too upset. If you're a Texans fan, you go, "God, we thought this would be a year where we could contend, but injuries bogged down our offense. We never really got to see our starting group play together for more than 2.5 games." And if you're the Chargers, you're thinking we're here a year earlier than I thought we would be. Or at least that's what I think of the Chargers. You're playing with house money. Anywhere you go beyond this is only something that you build next season off of. And that is an awesome thing to say for a team who looked like they were going to implode last year. It goes to show what culture can do. The reason I made the
Yeah,
list
and
of worst wins, best losses is because of this game.
yeah,
I didn't know where to
and
go.
also like, who knows if because Justin Herbert was hurt the first like 5 weeks of the season, and,
Right.
and
Yeah.
knows if he's healthy, if they have a couple more wins.
Right. And I don't think that the front office was prepared to be this much better this quickly. I mean, the Lad McConkey thing's great, but they did let go of some, weapons and targets that Herbert had. And had they held on to them too, I think, the record's maybe even a little bit better. But that's to say, I think the more that I think about it, the Chargers are a receiver two away from actually being a true contender in their division and a true contender in the AFC. And if there's anyone who can sort of build a team to beat a guy, it's going to be Harbaugh building a team to beat Mahomes. So I love that we have that for the next hopefully 10 years ish.
Yeah, and I'm not convinced that like moving on from the guys that they did was a bad thing because Lad McConkey seems like he's going to be really good there for a long time, and then like I'm not sold on Quentin Johnston yet, but he's had like several good games this year, and he just exploded last week for what do you have like 13 catches for almost 200 yards.
Right.
Like they're definitely building something there.
Yeah, it's just yeah. I think that they're like one E receiver away from
Hmm.
contending at an even and probably a running back. I know that the Dobbins thing has been good, but I feel bad that JK has had so many injuries and it feels like they probably need like it'd be crazy if they got Genty. I saw a mock draft with him going there. That'd be insane.
Oh, that would be so sick.
So it sounds like we're both thinking that this is a Chargers outright win. Do you have them covering the three on the road?
Absolutely. Yeah, I have them winning and covering. We're not to next week yet, but this Chargers Chiefs thing that's probably what I think is going to happen next week. It's really hard to beat a team 3 times.
Yeah, it'd be an awesome story too. An
Yeah.
awesome story.
Yeah, I'm excited for this game.
I am too, and it's a great way to start it off. It's funny that this is just Houston's spot now.
Yeah, 3:30 on Saturday.
The Shakies.
Yep.
I guess we'll move to the next game. This is a game that I've obviously thought long and hard about. I've kind of dreaded, but also I'm super excited, and I have a million things to think, and I had kind of hinted towards this earlier. But Steelers are going to Baltimore. Pittsburgh's best win this year is their 18-16 win over the Ravens. Um, I didn't put I misspelled that. And then their worst loss is their 20-17 loss to the Cowboys, which was one of the worst games that I watched all year from the Steelers offense. Their record against playoff teams is a respectable 4-4. Those four wins, though, the best of them again is the Ravens, and I think they got lucky. They beat up on some wild card teams like the Chargers and the Broncos early in the year, which paid dividends down the road for that record. The Ravens, on the other hand, their best win is a 30-10 win over the Bills, which was it felt like more than that watching it. Their worst loss is probably their 26-20 loss to the Seahawks, or well,
Raiders.
Raiders. Sorry. I think it's their loss to the Raiders. I put
It
or
has to
their
be.
right. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, I was reading one line down. Sorry, it's their 26-23 loss to the Raiders. Sorry, I went one line down on this. Their record against playoff teams is an astonishing 7-3. I mean, that's an unbelievable record against a playoff team this year. And Lamar made every case that he made his case for MVP very clear towards the end of the year, I think. I mean, numbers are insane. This is the best year he's ever had, and it's not really even close.
No, it's not even close. I mean, he was what, 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, over
Right.
4,000 yards passing, almost hit 1,000 rushing. He probably would have if they let him run more, but I know they kind of try to preserve him a bit during the year. Yeah, this was an insane year from Lamar, and we should just add that the record versus playoff teams 7-3, but if you throw the Bengals in there, they would be 9-3 versus playoff teams, which is crazy.
Right. Right. So it's unbelievable. I mean, they really did have an awesome year. The Derrick Henry thing seemed to have worked out he almost gets 2,000 yards on the season, even though they really lightened his load later on, which was funny. Early in the year, I was like,
Yeah.
God, they can't sustain this, and they didn't. They were just like, look, we can win games how we need to win them, and we know Lamar's awesome, so we're just going to be happy with Lamar. And you know, the funny thing is if you look, people are talking about, if Lamar's receivers had hands, he wouldn't, 3 picks would be gone or 2 of his picks would be gone and it'd really be different. That's true, but the only legitimate picks he's thrown all year that were kind of on him were against the Steelers.
Yeah.
And, Lamar's hit that point where it's like if he throws a pick, it's almost like the defensive player is making the play and it's not him being bad, it's the defensive player being good. That's a big difference, I think, in a lot of quarterbacks is like if they throw a pick, is that because the defensive player made an incredible play, or is that because he made a mistake? And Lamar's only had one big mistake interception this year, and it was against the Steelers the last time they played.
Yeah, because
The
his
last
other
time,
pick in that game was like a ridiculous defensive play, right?
right? That was in the first game of the season that the Steelers and Ravens played. That Peyton Wilson had that insane over the shoulder, pretty much just stole it from the running back
Yeah.
and came down with it. Yeah, so really he's only thrown one like boneheaded throw, and that was to Mika Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I think it's funny too that like the Steelers, I mean, it's just a meme that they're never below 500. It's just funny that you guys are 4-4 against playoff teams this year too.
Oh yeah, it's hilarious,
Just
dude.
never below 500.
Just always mediocre. Um, I was gonna
Yeah.
say it's of note in this game, the Steelers last time we played the Ravens had no Joey Porter, no Dante Jackson, no Deshaun Elliott, no David oh God, why am I forgetting his name now? One of our defensive linemen was out, and he's a significant defensive player, and I cannot remember his name right now. Ogunjobi, no Ogunjobi, and no Pickens. So this is a different team than Steelers team than the last time I played, but we had all of those guys and still lost to the Bengals. So take it for what it is, but the defense should be better. Russ needs to be better. The offense needs to be better in Pittsburgh. I think I know where both of us are going on this, but I will say that I think that the Ravens will probably end up winning. And I think the Steelers are going to cover a lofty 9.5.
Yeah, 9.5 is insane for a playoff game, dude. Like, especially between
Yeah,
these two
especially a
teams, is
division rival.
crazy. Yeah, and like Zay Flowers is out too, right?
Right. No Zay. It's, I'm interested. I'm not going to say that the Steelers don't have a chance. Let's just put it that way.
They
I
do
think that they can play in this game.
for sure. And like, if there's any team that's gonna pull an upset after like what you guys lose like your last 4 games,
Yeah.
like this is Mike Tom. This is what he dream of is to be like super underdog, counted out. Like I'm expecting this game to be really close. And if Justin Tucker's
Yeah.
missing field goals too, it could very well go the other way.
It's funny, and another thing that I was thinking about for this game is these teams are similar situated because if the Ravens lose to the Steelers, it's there's big conversations happening about what to do with Baltimore, right? When the reality is this is just not a good matchup for them. I think I heard Rosillo say like it's kind of a bummer because if Lamar loses, well, maybe it's just because the Steelers are a bad matchup for him and he drew them in the first round and that sucks. It doesn't mean he's not good. It doesn't mean what they're doing isn't working. It's just unfortunate. For the Steelers, on the other hand, if they lose, it's like, okay, probably moving on from Russ. There are talks that, we have to do something with the offensive coordinator at a minimum or the defensive coordinator at a minimum. Maybe Tomlin goes. I mean, that's like my really toxic Twitter. I don't think Tomlin will ever leave unless, it's a mutual parting of ways kind of thing. I don't think they're going to fire him at this point. But
Nah.
if the Steelers win, and everything changes. It turns into us paying Russ a bunch of money. It turns into us probably paying Najee Harris. It turns into this wasn't a failed season and we beat the Ravens and the fans are happy and who cares if we lost in the second round? We broke our playoff win drought. I'm not a fan of the mentality, but I get it. And if the Ravens win, well, it's probably the start of like a really good long playoff road for them. Hopefully, I mean, be crazy. It's going to be crazy if they end up playing Buffalo next week because these games just get better and better, obviously. So,
Yeah, so if you guys were to win, you'd play the Chiefs, right?
in all likelihood, unless somehow the Broncos miraculously beat the Bills,
Yeah, that. Yeah,
that's
I
not
mean,
going to happen.
I don't. Yeah, we can segue to that game. I'm gonna take Ravens and
Yeah.
Steelers to cover.
So, yeah, we can segue into the Buffalo Bills Broncos game. This game feels like the game that should have the biggest spread, not the Steelers game. So, Broncos' best win this year is their 26-27 win over the Bucks. Their worst loss, though, is a 26-20 loss to the Seahawks, or you could say their 41-10 loss to the Ravens. I didn't know how to evaluate it, whether it was like the blowout against the best team or just your worst loss to the team with the worst record. That's kind of tricky. The record
Yeah,
against playoff teams is technically 2-5, but really it's 1-5 because they played the Chiefs the last week and the Chiefs didn't play anybody. I mean, that like the Chiefs were actively, it seemed like, trying to lose that game.
yeah,
Flip over to the Bills. Their best win is the 31-20 win over the Chiefs. I thought about putting the win against the Lions in here, but it's just not true. That game meant more to the Chiefs than it did, I mean, to the Bills than it did anybody in the world. They're the only team to beat the Chiefs this year when they started Patrick Mahomes. Big win. Uh, their worst loss is probably their loss to the Rams, which says something. I mean, it's a 44-42 loss, and if you watch that game, Josh Allen just fought his ass off the full game. Or you can, flip and say it's the 35-10 loss to the Ravens, which was kind of just an ass kicking all throughout. It was early in the year. The record against
yeah,
playoff teams is an unimpressive 2-3. But you can look at that as a bites at the apple kind of thing. They only got to play 5 playoff teams because their division sucks. And I think that that's the least amount, if not tied for the least amount, yeah, of playoff team opportunities in the season. The Bills have looked awesome this year from my perspective. Sitting back and watching the Bills has been nothing but pleasure all season. It has been fun quarterback seasons I can remember watching when watching Josh Allen. He also probably deserves MVP. Maybe do the co MVP thing. I wouldn't be mad. Those are two of the best players I have ever seen play quarterback in a season. Were these two guys? Were him and Lamar.
yeah. I agree. It's so hard to pick.
Right? Yeah, right. It's so
Yeah,
hard. And the Broncos, like, I'm stoked for them. They made the playoffs. I did not. I mean, this is the most surprising team to me, maybe outside of the Vikings in the playoffs this year.
I agree.
Every other team you could have told me, and I would have been able to do the math in my head. Vikings and Broncos, I'd have been like, what? Starting Sam Darnold and a rookie Bo Nix? I don't know. I was obviously wrong about both of those things, but I'm happy to admit I was wrong because they've both been pretty fun to watch. Broncos have a great defense. They can fight in this game. I would not rule any team that made the playoffs completely out, but I think the Bills are probably going to win, and I actually kind of like them to cover the 8. So,
Yeah, so it all depends because you know how there's just like a Josh Allen game every once in a while where he's just like throwing picks and
yeah.
he's just playing out of control. Like that's how the Broncos win this game, and they have a defense. I don't think they're gonna go into Buffalo and win. And I don't really see Josh losing in the first round, but I'm not gonna be surprised if this game comes down to like a field goal or something. So I'm gonna take the Bills. I'm with the Broncos to cover.
Okay. Yeah, there's a chance here that I think that I sleep a little bit on the Bills defense. I've seen, of course, they've given up some pretty big numbers, right? I mean, they've given up in the 40s of points before, so it's hard to say that I sleep on them. But I think the Bills' defense is a little bit better than I give them credit for, but not as good as some people want to say, like, oh, don't sleep on them. So I try to balance that out by saying the Bills have a good enough defense to make Nick's uncomfortable in a game against just an incredibly seasoned quarterback in the playoffs. And that's, one of the things as we get further down the line here, there is another rookie quarterback making his first appearance in the playoffs. And you
Yeah,
have to consider that.
I think Sean Payton's gonna have a good game plan for this game.
I do too.
I don't think he's gonna have both like trying to do crazy stuff. Like I think it's gonna be really like hard nosed football, and it's gonna have to be a really good defensive game from the Broncos. But their defense is so good sometimes. So I, I'm excited about this game too.
Yeah, they have a great scoring defense. Like when you turn the ball over against the Broncos, they're usually putting their offense in a good position or scoring the football, which
So,
is of note. So I'm excited for this. I'm really excited. It's a great way to start the Sunday.
yeah, I will be kind of pissed if the Broncos win. So
I will be too. I think it'll mess too much up for me.
for
Although
sure.
I will be extremely stoked if the Broncos win and the Steelers win.
Oh yeah, dude. Because then you're playing like the Chargers or Texans to go to the AFC Championship.
Right. Or yeah, right. So that's that's the only caveat there, but I don't know.
You'll have to face the devil at some point. So
Right. Yeah, everybody's got to pay the piper.
yep.
Um that's the end of the AFC matchups. It's crazy. All these teams. This is the other most fun part about this playoff week is it's the playoff week where we get to talk about all the teams without having to talk about the Chiefs too much.
Yeah.
You know, because next week that reality changes. Next game is Eagles Packers. This, of course, was famously the Brazil game early in the year, where I thought Jordan Love was done for the year and then ended up being fine. Crazy that we're already here. The Eagles have had a pretty good year. I mean, obviously they're the 2 seed in the NFC. I thought at one point in the season it was over. And their best win is their 24-19 win over the Ravens, a really impressive win. Worst loss is their 22-21 loss to the Falcons, and that was the point of the year where I was concerned for Sirianni's life. The record against playoff teams is good. It's 4-2, and with that win against the Ravens, you can't help but be impressed. Packers are a team that's been up and down all year. They lost Christian Watson last game, which is super unfortunate. You hate to see that. Their best win this year is probably a 24-22 win over the Texans, or you could say it's their 24-19 win over the Rams. Pick and choose your battle there. The Rams, if I remember correctly, was a little bit earlier in the season, but maybe I'm wrong. Hold up. Yeah, it was, it was before, it was when the Rams were super injured. So I didn't know how to evaluate that. Uh, and the Texans win was kind of after the Texans had their best win of the year. They had just beat Buffalo, and I thought that maybe things were going to start working. Then they go into Green Bay and kind of they get beat. So, um, Jordan Love exited the last game with an injury. It was a weird loss to the Bears, which I think is actually probably their worst loss of the season. Um, you can make the rest argument there. I don't know. You could also say that their 24-14 loss to the Lions was pretty bad just because it's another playoff team. But they don't have that many bad losses when you look at it. Eagles,
No, they
Vikings.
don't, and it's crazy. It's crazy that they're like what they go 1-5 in the division.
Yeah,
Like that's insane. And I think they won how many games? Doing 12?
won 12 games or
12
11
games,
games.
1-5.
They're 11 and
11 games,
they're 11 and
1-5 in
6.
the division. That's just I don't know if that's ever even happened before. But like all
No, I
their
mean it
division
goes to
games
how
were
good that division is.
yeah, all the games were close besides this 24-14 one to the Lions. I personally don't care that they lost week 18 to the Bears.
Right.
And Love just left at halftime. I don't really care about that. Um, I haven't been able to like really trust this team all year. It seems like they just lose close games.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it. They just never established who's the guy that Love goes to in offense when they need him to go to a guy,
Yeah,
you know? And for a young quarterback, you kind of got to have that. I get that it's great that they have all these guys that he can go to, but you want one of these guys eventually to break out and be like, this is my receiving core. Everybody kind of branches off of me. And it never happened. And Christian Watson felt the closest thing, and now he's gone. So it's even weirder.
yeah.
Uh,
There's just it's like it was a different guy every week. Like I kind of thought Jaden Reed was gonna be the guy, but that I mean he had a couple weeks where he didn't even have a catch this
right.
season, I think. And yeah, it's just weird. I mean, I think they kind of transitioned to try to move through Josh Jacobs more, which I think is smart, but I don't know. I'm with you on the receiving thing. They got to pick a guy and make him the guy.
Right. Or they got to move one or two of these guys. You know, you got
Yeah.
to clear out space for a guy to become the guy.
Mhm.
'Cause it's hard to be mad at Jordan Love for not having a guy when he's just throwing to the open person on the field. But
Yeah.
at some point you want him to develop a relationship with a receiver that's a little bit more than just once every 3 games you're gonna pop off. The spread in this one is 4.5. It's in Philadelphia. Uh 4:30 kickoff, so the lights will be on by the end of the game. I've gone back and forth because I think the Packers just play in a lot of close games. So I like the Eagles to win ultimately. When you look at the Eagles season, it's just good. We haven't seen Jalen Hurts play in a while. It's a cause for concern that we haven't seen him in that long. There's a rust versus rest element to this that is serious. Uh, But ultimately, I like the Eagles to figure it out late in the game and win, and I like the Packers to cover.
Yeah, I like the Eagles to win cover in this.
Okay.
I think they're motivated to get back to the Super Bowl this year, and I don't think the Jalen Hurts thing is a big deal at all. I mean, he had a concussion. I think he probably could have played last week, but nobody played last week
Right.
for them. Um, I think he's good to go, and I the, I like this team a lot.
Yeah. No, they're really good. I'm not concerned about the
Yeah,
Hurts thing from a health standpoint. I'm concerned about it from just like hasn't played in a month.
that I mean that's fair too, but I would be more with you on that if they were like a pass heavy team, but
Yeah.
this team just runs the ball and the way they manage the clock, like so their drives just last the whole court, like they'll just take over game doing that, and
I mean, they did
Hurts
that to
is
the
really good
Steelers.
at that. Hurts Saquon, I think they're gonna run it as much as they can in this game, and then probably a couple big passes to A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith. I do think this defense is going to cause Jordan Love a lot of problems, and I think you can book at least one interception for him.
Yeah, I mean, anytime Jordan Love takes the field, there's a high likelihood of a pick. Uh, I am so impressed with the Eagles defense. And I don't want my taking the Packers to cover or anything to go to say that, like, I don't think that this Eagles team is a Super Bowl contender. I think the NFC playoffs is just that good this year.
Yeah,
Uh, as we march through this, I think you're going to see what I think of the NFC because I just think that the NFC is so close. The margin between the worst playoff team and the best playoff team is so thin. I mean, the Packers lost to the Lions again by, a maximum of 10 points, and we said that that was the Packers' worst loss of the year. It was a
yeah,
10-point loss to their division rival who or it's hard. Everybody's a rival in the division, so saying that's a little redundant. But to a division opponent
15-2
who
division
lost 2
opponent.
games,
Yeah,
right? Like, shit, this is a good team. This is a good Packers team. And it
for sure.
sucks that they're playing the Eagles if you're a Packers fan. I mean, I'm a Jordan Love fan, not necessarily a Packers fan. I will be cheering for the Packers in this game, but I do kind of want to see the Eagles advance. I mean, I'd love to see Eagles Lions.
Same.
Uh, I'd also love to see you guys play these guys next week too, but we'll get to that.
Yeah,
Um,
that's not happening.
yeah, you're of a solid opinion, but I'm of an opposite opinion on that. We're gonna get down now to this is another game where I think there are two very similarly situated teams. You've got the Bucks versus the Commanders. Uh, I think the Bucks, like every year you're in the playoffs, you're happy to be here. You win a really bad division, so what? You don't get to pick your division. Baker's been awesome. The Mike Evans thing, I thought personally was cool. I know it was a little Mickey Mousey to throw him that at the end of the game, but he was injured this year. That record means a lot to him. It's an impressive record. The fact that he was in a situation to be able to get it, I thought was really impressive, just based on the amount of games he missed this year. Commanders are a fun team. I guess I'll quickly run through their sort of best wins, best losses. So Commanders' best win this year is a 38-33 win over the Bengals, or a 36-33 win over the Eagles, who didn't have Jalen Hurts for the second half of the game. Their worst loss is a 34-26 loss to the Cowboys, and their record against playoff teams is 1-4. That one win is over the Eagles, who didn't have Hurts. The alternate, you have the Bucks, whose best win is a 20-16 win over the Lions, or the 33-16 win over the Eagles, the two other best teams in the division. The two teams at least above them in the standings, I should say, for the playoffs. Their worst loss is a 26-24 loss to the Cowboys. Funny that both of these teams' losses are to the Cowboys. And their record against playoff teams is a pretty impressive 4-3. I don't know why, but all week, for me, the Bucks are favored by 3. They're at home. I just think the Commanders are going to win this game.
Yeah, I don't. Um,
Okay, I
I
love
think it
it.
was a fun year for the Commanders, but I like Baker, man, and I actually think the Bucks could make a deep run.
Oh, I
Love
love
Baker
that.
in the underdog spot too. I just like Tampa was another one of the teams. I was like, dude, I just make me play Tampa. Tampa and the Rams, like the records don't show it, but like something about Baker and or Matt Stafford where I'm just like, dude, I just don't want to play them. Like they just put up points somehow on you, and I don't know. I like the Bucks in this game. I think the Commanders thing was really fun. Jaden Daniels was awesome this year. Terry McLaurin's awesome. Frank's going in the right direction, but yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna count Baker in this spot. Like Bucks to win and cover.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in DC for a while, so I am, I cheer for the Commanders when I can, is kind of one of my favorite lines to say about teams, but that I cheer for that aren't my primary team. I cheer for the Commanders when I can. And seeing the transformation of what they are now to what they were when I lived there, I'm brainwashed a little bit. I mean, I'm on Commanders Instagram, I'm on Commanders Twitter. Uh, So I have a bias here. 50 and a half. I know we pretty much have just stopped doing over-unders because they're impossible. This is a game that could go
Really
over
are.
very easily. Uh, it's worth a shout out to say that we finally get Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore in a playoff game, which is
Yeah,
super exciting.
I'm gonna take Mike Evans in that matchup too.
Yeah, same here. I just think it's hilarious that these two guys, every time they see each other, it's just on site.
Yeah.
They're ready to throw dukes. It's great. But yeah, it's a good game. This is one of the reasons. Usually, there's this game in every year. Like this game to me feels similar to the Browns uh Texans game last year, kind of. Like I guess there's a vibe around a game every year. This is the best for that vibed game I think I've felt. This is an awesome game for two teams that kind of don't. I don't think either of these teams are contending for a Super Bowl necessarily, but they are good. They are fun, and I think that both of them are thrilled to be here. Commanders certainly feel like 2 years early on being here from where they were 2 years ago or a year ago.
Yeah, I just think it's really scary for the Eagles and Lions if they have to like you can't tell me the Eagles are going to be happy if the Bucks win. They got to play them again.
No, they're gonna hate that. They're gonna hate
And
that.
even the Lions, like,
Right.
and I know it was really early in the year, but and I know they're missing Chris Godwin too, but I really think this kid has stepped up big. I mean, he scored
I was texting you during the
every week.
game.
Baker loves him. Yeah,
I texted you during the game like this kid's awesome, man.
he is, dude. Like Baker does that to like he's so good at just making his receivers better and like getting them opportunities. And I like their attack on offense with Bucky Irving. And if you're gonna key in on Mike Evans, McMillan, you have Cade Otton who sometimes goes off for like 10 catches and 100 yards. Like it's really hard to stop this offense. And I like Kicker too.
Yeah.
It's
No, it's all good
teams,
points.
but it's gonna be good. I'll be happy if either team wins. Though I can't get enough of watching Jaden Daniels, but I'm not gonna be too pumped on a Commanders Eagles matchup.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the Commanders did beat the Eagles. Now, it wasn't with Jalen Hurts, but yeah. All right,
Yeah, man.
dude, we're here.
Yeah, we beat the Warriors. They didn't have Steph Curry though.
I
Like
said it's
I
more
don't
like
know.
Clay Thompson.
Eh, I don't know. I just don't put a lot of stock into those games with like. I mean, the quarterback's injured. Like, come on.
It's fair.
They still won, which is good for them. But like, I don't know. You're going from Jalen Hurts to Kenny Pickett. It's not like you're
No,
going
yeah,
to
no,
a
it's a
guy
good
who
point.
knows how to play. But yeah, well, I mean, we'll
Right.
see, man. It's playoffs. Anything can happen. Do you have Commanders in this stuff?
Yeah, I've got Commanders.
Okay, cool. I like it. I like that we have a different pick.
Yeah, I do too. We've got a couple of different outcomes. All right, dude. You want to introduce this?
Not really, but I will.
All right.
Vikings Rams. It was in LA, but it's moved because of the fires. It's now in Glendale, Arizona. It's Vikings 2.5. Yeah, man, really excited for JJ McCarthy next year. So yeah, give me the Rams.
Yeah, so I knew that this was coming from you. I love it. We'll walk through it because we walk through it for every other team. The Vikings' best win this year is a win over the Packers. It's 27-25 win over the Packers. Their worst loss is a 30-20 loss to the Rams on a Thursday night game. And their record against playoff teams is 2-3. Rams' best win of the year is their 30-20 win over you guys, or their 44-42 win over the Bills. Their worst loss is a 24-18 loss to the Bears, which is shocking. I had no idea that was on their schedule. Their record against playoff teams is 2-3. The spread in this game is Minnesota 2.5. It's been moved from LA to Arizona. And that's nothing that you didn't say, but I just wanted to reemphasize. I think that move is actually a pretty big deal. And I really like Minnesota to bounce back here. I know that the Rams have Stafford, they've got McVay. I think that, look, Darnold didn't play great. He missed Jefferson on a couple of big opportunities in that Lions game. And had he hit and connected, that game goes completely differently. The way that the Lions were playing Jefferson was super unique. I don't know what happened to Addison. With the amount of attention that was being drawn to Jefferson, I thought Addison would play or have a better game. I just don't know if the offense went away from that. It just didn't feel like they were going to Addison a lot. I don't know how you felt. Felt like the game for him to be there. And I just, I just want to say I think that the Vikings are fine. I think they're going to win this game. I think that no team wants to play the Vikings. If there's anything, nobody wants to be playing this team. I know you say that about the Bucks, but I don't think Detroit's exactly like stoked if they have to play you guys next week. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Vikings.
Yeah, I hope you're right, man. For the record, I would pick the Vikings to beat anybody on this list in the NFC besides the Rams.
Really?
Yeah, really. I just don't see it happening, man. It is just what Kevin O'Connell wants to be, right? Like it's like he was on the Rams as the OC, now he's the head coach. It's like a big bro little bro thing. And I don't know, there's Stafford's got the rest now. Cup got some rest. Puka's rested. Their defense has actually gotten a lot better, like throughout the year. Like I don't know, man. There's just something
Well,
I don't feel good about this game.
you have
But
post traumatic Stratford disorder, dude. Because he tortured you guys for years.
yeah, yeah, and I hate to say this too, but I think Big Cat's right about my kicker. I know I went off on him last week, but
Bring Romo
yeah,
back? Question
that
mark.
guy's honestly, yeah, I wish. Um, I mean, the guy didn't miss a kick the whole time he was on our team.
Crazy. Got to go with the
But
hot
yeah,
leg, dude.
I mean, I've been fucked by a kicker before, so I'm I'm expecting I'm expecting a miss wide right, a big miss in this game from Will.
Don't say that,
Well,
dude.
you
The
never
Blair
know
Walsh thing. Yeah.
if the defense can, like, I don't know, get some turnovers, which I think is
Right.
going to be tough, but the defense has been kind of carrying us all year. Like the offense is awesome too, but like the defense is really gives the energy to the whole team. Um, if they can cause a couple turnovers, and I do think we need to get out to a lead. Like if the Rams go up 10 or 14,
Yes.
like I think it gets ugly.
I agree with you 100% on the lead thing. I think the best thing for you guys possible is to get out and get up early
Yeah.
because it can get, like you said, if you start trailing to this Rams team, it gets harder because they run the ball really well. And I think the way you guys like to play offense, I think you can score kind of as you need, but you would prefer to be running the ball with Aaron Jones.
Yeah. Hopefully he can healthy for this game. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I
that's
love the
always
guy,
tricky.
but man, he's just hurt all the time.
He's just
He's just
glass,
glass.
dude.
Straight up, man. Awesome player, awesome person. Like one of the best teammates in the NFL, I think. Every game I see him just hugging people after the game, or he's probably never even been on the team with before. He's just a nice guy, but good for him. Just he's just not healthy, and if we have to play Cam Akers for a whole game, who's been pretty good, but he's just not an RB1 in my opinion. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
he used to
scary
be on the Rams.
game on Monday, so all
Yeah.
eyes on this game.
In that Thursday game, there was the worst missed face mask I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
do you want to update the people on the score? I think you said we tied last week, so it stayed under or within 3, so we're going to keep carrying over to this week.
So we tied last week. I'm still up 3, so yeah, we're just gonna carry it into the playoffs
Wow. I mean, holy, system works.
for sure.
Super excited. Yeah, super excited. I guess we'll wrap the pod with quick basement tapes. This is just more me making a prediction as to what's about to happen. After the Steelers lost to the Bengals, my dad marched around the house for about 2.5 days, cursing the Steelers under his breath, being really upset, showing me articles about Tomlin getting fired, showing me articles about somebody getting fired. My grandma and grandpa called me. They were like, "You read all these stories and they say they're going to fire him. They're not going to fire him." I predict that my dad will watch 10 minutes of this game before shutting down mentally and emotionally and shuffling around the house, maybe doing my laundry again. I don't know. I don't think my dad is going to watch much of this game. He has been a wreck the past 4 weeks. I'm worried about him because he can't stop cursing about the Steelers under his breath. He can't stop reading articles. He's addicted to the pain
Yeah.
of being a Steelers fan. And if we lose, I hope that we do something big enough to make him happy because he's just so unhappy, perpetually unhappy. I feel for him.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a lot of snow to shovel, right? So we can like watch from the window, I guess.
Right, right. Which he shouldn't be doing, by the way. My dad has like he really hurt his back. It's a genuine. He's been out of commission, and the Steelers are going to actually cause him to lose his ability to use his legs at some point. That's how he gets so stressed about the Steelers that he ends up doing physical activity that puts his back in detriment.
Yeah, I mean, it's not looking good,
No,
honestly.
it's not looking good at all.
It's looking like a tough day, but you never know, man.
You never know. You never know. So everyone out
History would
there,
tell you that the Steelers are going to win this game. So
yeah, history would tell you that there's a lot of good numbers, but for anyone who listens out there, I know you probably know my dad if you listen to the podcast. Pray for the guy because he's just not. We've made a lot of good jokes at his expense over the year, but at this point, let's just hope that he can make it through without destroying his back.
thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers, dude. Prayers for
Prayers for
tomorrow.
Mark.
Oh. Well, as always, Jalen, it was a pleasure. I can't believe we've done this now for a full season and into the wild card. So good job by you, man. I look forward to watching the games, and I'll try to head over there to watch a game maybe later tonight. Or my dad gets back from his bike ride in time for me to catch part of the game with you. I will.
Yeah, dude. I'm really excited. I hope both teams win. I hope we
Same.
can have an awesome play. We dreamed of a Viking Steelers Super Bowl in week 9. So it's looking grim. No, but
It's so
um,
dark right now.
there's a chance, I guess.
It's never been darker than it is right now, but and it was never brighter than it was in that moment.
No, dude. I think we were winning the division, both of us, at that point, and we were like looking at our schedules, like, when's our next loss gonna be? Which I guess is more accurate for me. You ended up losing a bunch of games down the stretch, but um,
I just ended up losing, dude. Like pretty much since that conversation, I just ended up losing. When's my next
uh,
loss? It's like better to look at when my next win is gonna be, dude. And it's all likelihood the 2025 regular season. It's gonna be my next
for
win.
sure. Yeah. Uh,
There's a good chance I won't have won a football game since November, starting next year at the beginning of the season. So
yeah, that's 10.
dude, that's the game. It's love. You gotta love it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Great pod. Always fun to do this. Um, yeah. Hope I'm praying for good games today.
Same. Same. Well, it was great
And your dad.
talking. Thank you. Pray for Mark. Um, good talking to you, man.
Yeah, you too.